Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a fascinating journey, really, up to the Norwegian coast. We're looking at Klippfisk, Norway's salted treasure.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. More than just, preserved fish. It's a whole story of Nordic resilience, clever logistics, and it connects the North Sea with the Mediterranean in a way you wouldn't expect.
Absolutely. So, our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to unpack its history, look at how it's actually made the craft behind it, and importantly, share some key tips for anyone wanting to cook with it. Chef secrets, if you will.
Exactly. Let's start right at the beginning. The definition.
Mm-hmm.
Klippfisk is cod, primarily, though sometimes they use saithe or alling too.
Yeah.
And it's preserved through, well, heavy salting and then drying. That salting part, that's the game changer.
And the name itself, Klippfisk, it sort of gives away the traditional method, doesn't
It
it?
does. It literally means rockfish. From the Norwegian cliff, or rockenfisk. Well, that's fish. It points straight back to how they used to do it. Laying the salted fish out on big, flat seaside rocks. Cliffs, essentially. Letting the sun and wind do the drying.
Now, I bet some listeners familiar with Nordic food might hear that and think, stockfish, turfisk. But they're really quite different, aren't they? Especially in the final product.
Oh, worlds apart. Completely different chemistry. Stockfish, turfisk, that's just air-dried. No salt involved at all. Klippfisk, though, relies entirely on that intense salt cure before drying.
And that changes everything.
It changes the fish on a cellular level. You get a much denser texture. It lasts incredibly long, shelf life-wise. And the flavor, it's deeper, more savory, almost umami-rich in a way that plain dried fish just isn't.
Right. And that unique quality that wasn't initially about gourmet food, was it? It came from pure necessity, which takes us right into the history.
Exactly. Born of necessity. Think back to the 17th, 18th centuries. Life on Norway's coast, places like Kristiansand, Ålesund, these are emerging trade hubs. Winters were incredibly tough.
Finding fresh food consistently must have been a huge challenge.
Huge. So preservation wasn't just useful. It was fundamental for survival through those long, dark months.
And the method they landed on was, well, remarkably simple for its time, scalable too.
Very scalable. Fresh fish, gutted, salted heavily, pressed down, and then just laid out, letting nature handle the drying. It was brilliant in its simplicity.
What's amazing is how quickly this local survival technique became a major international trade item.
It really took off. By the late 1600s, Klippfisk was a major Norwegian export. It really stands as a symbol of how Nordic people could take this challenging environment and, create real tradable value from it.
And the main destination for this trade is frankly surprising. You'd think maybe other Nordic countries, maybe Britain, but no.
Now, the big markets were south. Portugal, Spain, Italy. Merchant ships were sailing this salted, dried cod straight down to the Mediterranean.
That connection seems key to the whole Klippfisk story. Why there?
This is where it gets really fascinating. You can almost call it spiritual logistics.
Spiritual logistics. Okay, explain that.
Well, think about the strong Catholic traditions across Southern Europe. Lent, numerous fasting days, Fridays. Often meat was forbidden, and fresh fish wasn't always available or easy to keep, especially inland before refrigeration.
I see where you're going.
Klippfisk was the perfect solution. Non-perishable protein, available year-round, that fit perfectly within these widespread religious dietary rules. It solved a huge logistical and a spiritual need at the same time.
That's a brilliant insight. So it wasn't just that it could survive the long sea journey, it arrived fulfilling a massive pre-existing cultural demand.
Precisely. And that's why it didn't just get eaten. It got woven into the very fabric of their cuisines. It took root. Became bacalhau in Portugal, bacalhau in Italy, bacalhau in Spain. Each culture adopted it, made it their own. This humble northern fish created a lasting bond.
And that bond, that trade, relied entirely on the quality and consistency of the product.
Which brings us to the craft itself. How did they actually make it reliably on such a scale? Let's walk through those stages. Okay, the craft. It's quite methodical. Stage one, obviously, is the fresh catch, usually cod, like we said. And speed is critical here. Clean it, prep it fast to keep the quality high.
Then comes the crucial part. Step 2. Salting.
Intensive salting. They use coarse sea salt, layering it generously with the split fish. Osmosis kicks in immediately. The salt pulls water out, which halts bacterial growth. It's the core preservation step.
And after salting?
Step 3 is pressing. They'd stack the salted fish and apply heavyweight stones, wooden boards, whatever worked. This compression forces out even more moisture and really helps develop that characteristic dense, slightly fibrous texture.
Then step 4, the drying. back to the rocks.
Traditionally, yes. Onto the clip, the coastal rocks, using just the wind and the northern sun. Nowadays, though, for consistency and large scale, they often use climate-controlled drying facilities. More predictable results for the global market.
Right, guarantees quality.
Exactly. And finally, step 5 is maturation. What you end up with is this firm, incredibly lightweight fish. Stored properly cool and dry can last for years. That combination of salt and air drying made it absolutely ideal for long sea voyages. A perfect trade commodity.
It really is a marvel of food preservation engineering. Let's talk about the wider impact. This wasn't just food, it shaped communities, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The cultural footprint is huge. Klippfisk didn't just help Norwegians survive, it empowered them as major maritime traders. It's a symbol of their ingenuity, turning a natural resource into national wealth.
And you mentioned specific towns earlier, Kristiansund, for instance. Our research points to it being called the Klippfisk capital of the world. Why there, specifically?
Kristiansund just had the perfect setup. Geographically, it had deep, sheltered harbors, essential for shipping year-round. And maybe even more importantly, the local microclimate was just right for drying. Not too wet, good wind. They basically industrialized the process there, building the docks, the warehouses, everything needed to process and export massive quantities. It became this economic engine built almost entirely on Klippfisk.
That concentration of industry is impressive. And it's not just
Yeah.
history, right? This tradition is still alive.
Very much alive. In Norway, Klippfisk is still a big deal for Christmas and other holidays. And critically, Southern Europe. They still import thousands of tons every year. It's not just a quaint tradition down there. It's a staple ingredient they continue to rely on.
Okay, so for listeners who are now intrigued and maybe want to try cooking with this amazing ingredient, we need to switch gears. Kitchen time. This isn't like handling fresh fish, is it?
Yeah.
What are the absolute must-knows?
The number one, non-negotiable, absolutely critical step, desalting. Also called rehydration, you have to do this. Skip it, and the fish will be inedibly salty and tough as leather.
Right. Rehydration is vital. And it takes time, I gather.
It takes patience, yes. You need to fully submerge the Klippfisk in plenty of cold water. And we're talking usually 24 to 48 hours, maybe even longer for really thick pieces.
Okay, 24 to 48 hours soaking. Anything else?
Yes. Crucially, you have to change that water regularly every, say, 6 to 8 hours. Think of it like flushing the salt out gently. If you just leave it sitting in the same salty water, it won't desalt properly.
That makes sense. How do you know when it's actually ready to cook? Is there a test?
Definitely don't just trust the clock.
Mhm.
The best way is to tear off a very small piece from a thick part, rinse it, and taste it raw. It should taste pleasantly savory, like the sea, but not bitingly salty. If it makes you pucker, it needs more soaking time with fresh water changes.
Got it. Taste, don't time. So once it's properly desalted, it's basically revived fish. How careful do you need to be with it then?
It becomes quite delicate, actually. Very similar to handling a nice fresh cod fillet. You want to be gentle to keep those lovely flakes intact. Don't manhandle it.
And cooking methods. What texture are we aiming for and how do we get there?
The ideal is firm but yielding, breaking into beautiful flakes. The way to achieve that is with slow, moist cooking. Think baking in a sauce, gently stewing it like in a bacalhau preparation, or even poaching. Gentle heat is key.
So what's the big don't? What cooking method should you absolutely avoid?
Avoid high direct heat, especially frying in a hot pan like you might sear fresh fish. Because Klippfisk has that cured, compressed texture. Intense heat tends to make the protein seize up, and you end up with something tough and rubbery. Wastes all that careful soaking.
Good tip. And seasoning. Obviously, it started out incredibly salty.
Right, you need to be super careful with adding any extra salt to your recipe. The fish itself will still retain a distinct, savory saltiness even after soaking. So always taste the dish before you even think about adding salt. You might need very little or maybe none at all.
This is where it gets really exciting for me, bringing those cultures together on the plate. What flavors work best with Klippfisk?
It just sings with those classic Mediterranean ingredients. It's no accident, given its history. Tomatoes, garlic, good quality olive oil, onions, capers, black olives, fresh parsley. These are its natural partners.
Makes sense.
And because the fish has that inherent richness from the curing, it often needs something bright to balance it out. So a squeeze of lemon juice, some lemon zest, or a splash of vinegar at the end can really lift the whole dish.
Excellent. Now, before we wrap, you shared a great little pro tip for keeping it moist when baking. Can you share that again?
Oh yeah, it's a simple trick, but really effective. If you're baking or braising the Klippfisk in the oven, just put a small oven-safe bowl or dish filled with water on a rack below or beside your main dish.
What does that do?
As the oven heats, that water creates steam. It keeps the oven environment moist, which prevents the edges of the fish from drying out while the thicker parts cook through. Helps guarantee a really tender result.
Fantastic tip. What an incredible journey this ingredient takes, really. From, basic survival food on the cold Norwegian rocks.
To being the star ingredient in beloved dishes across the sunny Mediterranean. It's amazing.
Klippfisk really is, well, it's a testament to how geography, necessity, and human ingenuity can intersect. Salt, wind, time, creating something much more than just preserved fish.
It truly is. A durable flavor, a profound connection across cultures, all from trying to survive the winter.
So for you listening, what does this all boil down to? Maybe it's that sometimes the simplest solutions, born from necessity, have the most profound and lasting impacts. And we'll leave you with this thought to chew on. How can a product created purely for survival in the harsh, isolated North become so fundamental, so culturally defining in the warm, vibrant, and distant cuisines of the Mediterranean? That paradox is Klippfisk.
A remarkable piece of food history still very much on our tables.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you're feeling inspired, maybe even ready to start soaking some Klippfisk yourself.